Take a deep breath. Hold it for a second. Now, let it out. That sensation, that is the feeling of life rushing into your bloodstream. Roughly 21% of the air you just inhaled is oxygen. It is the most vital component of our existence, the invisible fuel that powers every thought, every heartbeat, and every movement you make. Scientists call our current atmosphere the Goldilocks zone. It's not too thin, not too thick. It's just right. 21% is the perfect balance to keep complex life, like you and me, alive, while keeping the volatile chemistry of our planet in check. To appreciate this balance, we have to realize that oxygen wasn't always the hero of the story. In fact, the first time oxygen appeared on Earth in massive quantities, about 2.4 billion years ago during the Great Oxidation event, it caused one of the worst mass extinctions in history. It wiped out nearly all anaerobic life. To the microbes of the ancient Earth, oxygen wasn't fuel. It was a deadly plague. We are the descendants of the survivors who learned to harness this volatile gas. We tamed the fire, but if we double the dose, we are essentially untaming it, inviting that ancient chaos back into our biology. So let's run a simulation. Let's take the knobs of our planetary life support system and twist them to the extreme. What if, magically, overnight, the oxygen levels on Earth didn't just rise by a few percent, but doubled? Imagine waking up tomorrow to an atmosphere that is 42% oxygen. To understand the scale of this change, consider the sheer weight of the air. Right now, the atmosphere presses down on you with a force of 14.7 pounds per square inch. If we double the oxygen without removing the nitrogen, the air density increases significantly. The sky would literally feel heavier. Sound would travel faster and louder. Even the way a baseball curves when thrown by a pitcher would change due to the increased air resistance. The very physics of moving through space would feel slightly wrong. This increased density creates a phenomenon known as atmospheric viscosity. It would feel like walking through a very thin soup. If you dropped a feather, it would drift down agonizingly slowly, buoyed by the thick air. Birds could glide for hours without flapping their wings. Even airplanes, if they could keep their engines from exploding, would generate lift much easier, allowing for shorter runways but creating massive turbulence. The air itself becomes a physical presence, wrapping around you like a heavy blanket, and your eyes would play tricks on you. The denser atmosphere would bend light more aggressively, creating a permanent state of refraction known as looming. Distant objects, like ships on the horizon or skyscrapers in a neighboring city, would appear taller and closer than they actually are. At night, the stars wouldn't just twinkle, they would flicker violently, distorted by the thick, swirling gas. You would be living in a world that looks slightly magnified, a funhouse mirror version of reality. At first glance, you might think this sounds like a utopia. More oxygen means more energy, right? You might imagine a world of super athletes, clearer minds, and boundless vitality. And for the first few hours, you would be absolutely right. But the line between a medicine and a poison is often just the dosage. As we peel back the layers of this hypothetical world, we aren't just looking at a planet with more air. We are looking at a fundamentally different Earth, a planet of terrifying giants, of unquenchable fires, of crumbling cities, and biological chaos. This is the story of the 42% world, a place where every breath gives you life and slowly kills you. Let's start with the immediate aftermath. The moment the switch is flipped, you wake up. The first thing you notice is clarity. The mental fog that usually clings to you in the morning is gone instantly. You sit up, and your body feels weightless. Biologically, your body is suddenly flooded with high-grade fuel. Under normal conditions, your red blood cells work hard to capture oxygen and transport it to your tissues. But at 42%, your blood plasma, the liquid part of your blood, starts dissolving oxygen directly. It's like switching your car from standard unleaded gasoline to rocket fuel. You decide to go for a run. Usually, you get tired after a mile or two. Your muscles burn as lactic acid builds up, a sign that you aren't getting enough oxygen to create energy. But today, you run, and you keep running. You are sprinting at speeds that would normally make your chest explode, but you are barely breathing hard. In this new world, human physical limits are shattered. The current marathon world record is just over 2 hours. In the 42% world, we might see a sub-1 hour marathon. We would see athletes performing feats of strength and endurance that seem physically impossible today, because their recovery times would be near instant. However, this rapid recovery creates a disturbing medical paradox: hyperfibrosis. In a high-oxygen environment, wounds heal terrifyingly fast, but not correctly. Instead of regenerating smooth skin, the body produces excess collagen, leading to massive raised keloid scars. A simple paper cut might heal in an hour, but leave a permanent, thick ridge on your finger. Over time, humanity would become a species of scar tissue, our bodies mapped by the history of every minor scratch and scrape we've ever endured. But this energy comes with a cost: hunger. With your metabolic rate cranked up to maximum, your body would burn through calories like a furnace. To sustain this superhuman activity, you wouldn't just eat 3 meals a day. You might need 6 or 7 high-calorie feasts just to keep from passing out. We would become a species of voracious eaters, constantly hunting for our next sugar rush just to keep our biological engines running. Cognitive function would also skyrocket. The brain is the body's most oxygen-hungry organ, consuming about 20% of your intake. With a surplus supply, your focus, reaction times, and problem-solving abilities would peak. However, this cognitive boost has a dark side: insomnia. Your brain, flooded with energy, would struggle to shut down. Sleep would become light and fragmented. And when you finally do sleep, you would enter a state of permanent lucid dreaming. With the brain remaining highly active during REM cycles, dreams would be hyper-realistic, vivid, and potentially terrifying. You might wake up exhausted, not from a lack of sleep, but from the intensity of the adventures your mind created while you were unconscious. And socially, humanity might enter a state of collective hypervigilance. With highly oxygenated blood, the brain's fight-or-flight response mechanism would be on a hair trigger. While you'd be more alert, you might also be prone to extreme anxiety and aggression. A bar fight in a 42% world wouldn't just be faster, it would be more violent, fueled by brains that are processing threats at double speed. We might become a species of geniuses, yes, but geniuses with a very short temper. This superhuman phase is a honeymoon, and like all honeymoons, it has to end. While you are enjoying your newfound powers, a sinister chemical reaction is beginning deep inside your cells. Welcome to the reality of oxygen toxicity. You see, oxygen is a paradox. It gives life, but it is also one of the most corrosive elements in the universe. It loves to react. It loves to steal electrons from other molecules. Before the physical pain sets in, you would notice the smell. In high concentrations, oxygen reacts with UV light to create ozone at ground level. the entire world would smell faintly of bleach and burning electrical wires. This sharp, metallic scent would irritate your nose and throat constantly, a chemical warning sign that the air itself is slowly sanitizing your lungs. Scientific studies on deep-sea divers give us a glimpse of this horror. Divers who breathe pressurized oxygen mixtures for too long suffer from the Paul Bert effect. The central nervous system begins to misfire. The first symptoms are subtle: twitching in the lips and hands, nausea, and tunnel vision. But quickly, this escalates to violent convulsions and seizures. At sea level in a 42% world, you would face the Lorraine-Smith effect, pulmonary toxicity. Your lungs are delicate. The alveoli, the tiny air sacs where gas exchange happens, are lined with a thin, sensitive membrane. High concentrations of oxygen act like acid to this membrane. Slowly, over days and weeks, your chest would begin to burn. Breathing would become painful. The lungs would become inflamed and filled with fluid. Ironically, you would eventually die from suffocation, as your damaged lungs lose the ability to process the very air you need. Your immune system would also turn against you. Oxygen plays a key role in how white blood cells kill bacteria. In a hyper-oxygenated environment, your immune response would go into overdrive. Harmless allergens like pollen or dust could trigger massive, life-threatening cytokine storms. Autoimmune diseases would skyrocket as the body's defense mechanisms become too aggressive, attacking healthy organs in a misguided attempt to protect you from the toxic air. And there is a specific demographic that would suffer immediately: the unborn and the newborn. Oxygen toxicity is notoriously dangerous for developing eyes. In the mid-20th century, doctors gave premature babies pure oxygen, unaware of the dangers, and it caused retrolental fibroplasia, permanent blindness. In a 42% world, any baby born naturally would risk immediate damage to their retinas. We would have to build specialized low-oxygen nurseries just to ensure the next generation can see. The simple act of birth would become a medical emergency requiring an airlock. The damage isn't just to your cells, it's to the trillions of bacteria living inside you. Your gut microbiome is largely anaerobic, meaning oxygen is toxic to them. A flood of oxygenated blood reaching your intestines could wipe out the beneficial bacteria that help you digest food and produce vitamins. You might survive the lung toxicity, only to face a total collapse of your digestive system. But even for healthy adults, there are free radicals. Free radicals are unstable molecules produced when our bodies process oxygen. They careen around our cells like microscopic wrecking balls, damaging DNA. This is what we call aging. In a 42% world, cellular aging hits the fast-forward button. We might have the energy of superheroes, but our lifespans would likely be cut in half. A 30-year-old might look and feel like a 60-year-old. Cancer rates would explode as DNA damage accumulates faster than our bodies can repair it. So humans are suffering. We are twitching, going blind, starving, and aging rapidly. But if you look out the window, you'll see that some creatures aren't suffering at all. In fact, they are thriving. To understand what happens to the animal kingdom, we have to look back 300 million years to the Carboniferous period. Back then, oxygen levels peaked around 35%, and the world was ruled by monsters. We have found fossils of Meganeura, a dragonfly with the wingspan of a hawk. We've found Arthropleura, a millipede that was 8 feet long and as wide as a car. Why were they so big? It comes down to anatomy. Humans use lungs to pump oxygen. Insects use a passive system of tiny tubes called tracheae. In our current atmosphere, This system limits bugs to small sizes, but in a 42% atmosphere, that limit vanishes. Within a surprisingly short evolutionary window, or perhaps even through rapid mutation, the insect world would expand. Imagine opening your pantry. The cockroaches aren't the size of a paperclip, they are the size of your shoe. Imagine mosquitoes. Today, they are an annoyance. In this new world, a mosquito would be the size of a hummingbird, and its bite wouldn't just itch, it would require stitches. Spiders would be the apex predators of the suburbs, large enough to hunt mice, rats, or even small pets. And as the sun goes down, the horror wouldn't end. It would simply glow, with more oxygen available for chemical reactions. Bioluminescence in nature would become supercharged. Fungi, beetles, and even certain plants might evolve to glow brilliantly in the dark to attract mates or prey. The night forests would be beautiful, illuminated by a ghostly neon light. But that light would reveal the silhouettes of predators watching you from the trees. And it's not just the animal kingdom. The fungi kingdom would experience a renaissance. Most fungi are aerobic, requiring oxygen to break down organic matter. With double the oxygen, decomposition would happen at lightning speed. We might see the return of prototaxites, ancient fungi that stood 20 feet tall. Giant mushrooms the size of umbrellas would sprout overnight in your yard, releasing thick clouds of spores that could choke entire cities. The world would be covered in a layer of aggressive, fast-growing mold. And imagine the sound. In a denser atmosphere, sound waves travel differently. But more terrifying is the volume of nature itself. The buzzing of a bee the size of a football wouldn't be a gentle hum. It would sound like a drone flying next to your ear. A cricket's chirp would be deafening. The forests wouldn't be quiet places of reflection. They would be roaring cacophonies of giant organisms communicating at volumes we aren't built to withstand. It's not just the animals that would rebel. Plants would grow at terrifying speeds. With abundant oxygen fueling their respiration at night, weeds like kudzu or ivy would consume abandoned cities in weeks, not years. Your backyard lawn would become a jungle overnight. We would be fighting a constant battle just to keep our roads and houses from being strangled by aggressive, hyper-growth vegetation. The world wouldn't just be full of monsters. It would be a green prison. Agriculture would collapse. We would be fighting a war for food against an enemy that outnumbers us billions to one. But the biggest threat in a high-oxygen world isn't biological. It's chemical. And it starts with a single spark. Fire is a simple chemical reaction. It needs three things: heat, fuel, and oxygen. If you increase the fuel, the fire lasts longer. But if you increase the oxygen, the fire becomes hotter, faster, and more explosive. In a 42% world, damp wood burns like gasoline. Vegetation that normally acts as a natural firebreak, like green leaves, would ignite instantly. A single lightning strike in the Amazon rainforest wouldn't just start a fire, it would trigger a firestorm of biblical proportions. Imagine a forest fire that moves faster than you can drive. The flames would burn with a blinding, white-hot intensity, melting metal and turning rock into glass. And the danger is in the dust. In our current world, grain silos or flour mills sometimes explode because fine dust is flammable. In a 42% world, any dust becomes an explosive. Spilled sugar in a kitchen, sawdust in a workshop, or even lint in a dryer could detonate with the force of a bomb if a spark hits it. Everyday cleaning wouldn't just be about hygiene. It would be about bomb disposal. Even the sky itself would look different. with a denser atmosphere and more molecules to scatter sunlight, a process called Rayleigh scattering. The sky would shift from our familiar pale blue to a deeper, darker, almost violet hue. Sunsets wouldn't be soft oranges and pinks. They would be intense, blood-red spectacles caused by the light struggling to penetrate the thicker soup of air. It would be a beautiful backdrop for the burning world below. These superfires would even create their own weather systems. The intense heat would generate massive updrafts, forming pyrocumulonimbus clouds, essentially fire-breathing thunderstorms. These clouds would produce lightning, not from water vapor, but from static ash, striking the ground and starting more fires miles away. It would be a self-perpetuating cycle of destruction, a planetary engine designed to burn everything to the ground. Consider the phenomenon of zombie fires. In our current world, these are fires that smolder underground in peat moss. In a 42% world, the ground itself would burn. The high oxygen concentration would allow fire to penetrate deep into the soil, consuming root systems meters below the surface. You could be walking on green grass, unaware that an inferno is raging 10 feet beneath your boots, waiting to collapse the ground. And don't forget static electricity. In dry conditions, that little shock you feel when touching a doorknob carries enough energy to ignite a spark. In 42% oxygen, that spark is a reliable ignition source. Every handshake, every brush against a fabric sofa becomes a potential arson event. We would have to live in a world without open flames. No candles, no lighters, no gas stoves. But even that might not be enough. Because the machines that run our civilization are about to betray us. Our modern world is built on combustion. The internal combustion engine is calibrated precisely for 21% oxygen. Here is what happens when you start a car in a 42% atmosphere. The fuel-air mixture detonates. The temperature inside the engine spikes. Pistons would weld themselves to cylinders. Millions of cars would break down simultaneously. Global logistics would grind to a halt. Trucks couldn't deliver food. Ships couldn't cross oceans. However, as one technology dies, another would rise from the grave. The airship. In a denser atmosphere, lighter than air travel becomes incredibly efficient. Helium and hydrogen would provide significantly more lift against the heavy oxygenated air. Since jet engines are too dangerous and wings require too much speed, we might see the return of massive solar-powered zeppelins dominating the skies. It would be a strange, steampunk future. High-tech cities connected by slow-moving, majestic airships floating through the violet sky. Our electrical grid would also face a catastrophic failure. Air acts as an insulator for electricity, but its insulating properties change with density and composition. In a high-oxygen environment, the breakdown voltage of air creates a new problem. High-voltage power lines would arc, electricity jumping across gaps it normally couldn't cross. Transformers would blow. The quiet hum of the power grid would turn into a constant, crackling thunderstorm of short circuits, plunging the world into darkness just when we need climate control the most. And then, there is the rust. Oxidation is the process where oxygen reacts with metal. Doubling the oxygen means doubling the speed of oxidation. Our infrastructure, bridges, skyscrapers, power lines, would corrode at an alarming rate. A bridge designed to last 100 years might become structurally unsafe in 50. And what about the device in your pocket? Lithium-ion batteries are already prone to catching fire if damaged. In a 42% oxygen atmosphere, a punctured battery wouldn't just hiss and smoke. It would detonate with the force of a grenade. Every electric car, every smartphone, and every laptop becomes a potential explosive device. We would have to redesign all our electronics to be hermetically sealed, or risk carrying a bomb next to our skin. This corrosion extends to the microchips that run our lives. Computers generate heat. In a high-oxygen environment, the materials inside your laptop, copper, gold, silicon, would face accelerated oxidation at high temperatures. Cooling fans would simply circulate corrosive air over sensitive components. Data centers, the backbone of the internet, would fail. We would lose the cloud. We would lose our digital history. And space travel? It becomes nearly impossible. Launching a rocket requires a controlled explosion. In this atmosphere, the aerodynamic friction of a rocket speeding through the sky would generate enough heat to turn the hull into a fireball before it even reached the stratosphere. We would be trapped on Earth, prisoners of our own thick air. So is this the end? Probably not. Humans are adaptable, but our way of life would have to change radically. We would likely retreat into sealed, climate-controlled environments, massive biodomes or underground cities, where we can artificially lower the oxygen levels back to a safe 21%. Going outside would require a spacesuit to protect us from the toxicity and the flammability. This shift would likely create a brutal class divide. The wealthy would secure spots in the high-tech, low-ox domes, luxury cities with scrubbed air where they can live normal lifespans. The poor would be left in the outlands, forced to wear ragged breathing masks, living in bunkers to hide from the giant fauna and scavenging raw materials from the rusting ruins of the old world. It would be a biological apartheid, separated not by walls, but by the quality of the air. This divide would also fracture our psychology. For those left in the outlands, facing daily threats from giant insects and firestorms, new belief systems might emerge. We might see the rise of oxygen cults, groups that worship the volatile air, refusing masks and believing that the short, hyper-energetic life is the true human experience. Society would split not just economically, but philosophically, between the preservers in the domes and the burners outside. Our history would also be erased physically. Paper is organic. It oxidizes. In high oxygen, books in libraries would turn yellow and crumble into dust within a generation, unless kept in vacuum chambers. Paintings in museums, historical documents like the Constitution, all would fade and disintegrate. We would lose our connection to the past, forcing us to etch our new history onto stone or non-reactive ceramic plates, returning to the methods of our ancient ancestors just to be remembered. Society would shift. We would switch to electric vehicles immediately. Solar and wind power would become our only safe options. Evolution would eventually catch up. Over thousands of years, humans surviving outside might develop smaller lungs, thicker skin, and more potent antioxidant systems. We would become a different species, hardened by the hostile air. It is terrifying to think how fragile our existence is. We walk around every day, taking for granted that the air will fill our lungs and not burn them. We strike a match, assuming it won't incinerate the room. We often wish for more energy, more resources, more power. But the story of the 42% world teaches us a valuable lesson. More is not always better. Life on Earth is a balancing act. It dances on the edge of a razor. The 21% oxygen level we have now is a statistical miracle. It is high enough to allow for complex brains and warm blood, but low enough to prevent the world from burning to ash. So the next time you step outside and take a deep breath, don't just think of it as air. Think of it as a precise chemical prescription that the universe has written just for you. We are living in the Goldilocks zone. Let's hope we stay here. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into a hypothetical nightmare, hit that like button and tell me in the comments, what would be the scariest part of a high-oxygen world for you? The giant spiders? Or the inability to ever light a candle again? Subscribe for more what-if scenarios, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay curious.